1917 by the ferry operator who operated a ferry across the Duck River. The fellow was a soldier with Andrew Jackson and a renowned local Indian fighter. There's that little dot up at the top.
It's moving.
That's doing shit, yeah. Doing all kinds of shit.
We're here in the Natchez Trace. The dogwoods down there are pretty. I had no idea this road was so new.
Beautiful road. Oh, yeah, there's... Still on. You got a whole bunch. Actually, we've been on for a while here. I don't even know what I've been looking at. Oh, this damn camera's on. I thought I wasn't, but how do I turn it off?
Push it again.
Down to the power of the Desert, wherever his stronghold may be. Down to the power of the Desert, wherever his stronghold may be.
Here we are on Easter Sunday on the Natchez Trace. What's the date today, Jim? March 30th.
March 30th.
Easter Sunday beer.
Oh yeah, here's the water. The good part of the waterfall's down here. And look at the wildflowers down there. The purple and the yellow mixed in with each other.
Ah, very pretty.
That's a beautiful view right there. Oh, and then film that purple blossom on the tree, mixed in with the dogwoods. Look at that. He died at 35 years old. It's a real great. Cynthia Pears. Well, this was a That is just gorgeous. You know, you can see how Andrew Jackson would have had to pay If some Indian wants 75 grand to ferry your army across the river, you're going to have to pay it.
It's wider than I thought it was.
And I didn't realize this river was that wide. You also see how the gunboats come in. I mean, this river... Ability, it doesn't have it. As good as it gets. Beautiful. One of Mars and the other. Here, and they're the Confederate dead that died, gave their lives here, July 14, 1864, fighting with Bedford Forrest.
What for, Jim? What'd they fight for?
The rats. They're what? They're rats. That's what those boys are fighting for with Bedford Forrest right here. They're rats.
Muddy shoes there, Jim. What happened?
You told me to jump. Okay, jump. Jump again without shoes on. I just mess it up.
Will you jump in so I can see how deep it is again?
No, I'm not going to get into that quicksand down there again. Look at that.
There's your shampoo.
That's
What are you doing, Jim?
I'm on the mud march.
You're sinking.
Not too badly. Yep, General Burnside and mud march have nothing new to me. Look at that, clean shoe. My rat! Got me some rats down here. Yeah, dude, got me rats. And shoes, too. Back for shoes.
Don't forget your
Dude, Gettysburg, get me some new shoes.
don't forget your shampoo.
What, Paul, you want me to go back into that quicksand? Look at that. It's gonna sink. The damn dirt is in the middle of my shoes. He don't pick corn, he don't plant cotton, he don't do, he don't do nothing. Cotton mold.
Cotton needs picking so bad.
That's a briars.
What you got there, Jim?
Cotton, my rats. Buy for my rats and just cut your cotton. You all right?
What are you doing there, Jim? Your seat.
This is my rats. Got my rats. Big cotton. My rats. This is a beautiful scene. The song Brad wouldn't let us band play. See it. Choctaw gave up the rats. The rats. They gave up the rats here. Yeah, there is that line of trees right there. That line of trees was the boundary between the Choctaw and the Americans.
Where?
Right there to the left. That line of trees, that marked the boundary of the Choctaw Nation. Shit, it is now.
What?
This thing's on.
It's not on.
Yeah, it is on. Right in there, my rats. Wanted bartenders and cooks. Bob, you'd come down here and be a cook. Right here. artillery archer. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, nothing's ever going to teach you. We're here. Wallies are here waiting for you, Rick. Go to the edge here and look what the infantry boys had to deal with. Look at that. Could you imagine being ordered to attack to the top of that hill? And I can hear the word from Washington, attack, attack, attack. And our men will charge up those slopes and they'll get butchered. And they'll go in top hats will thump their chest and say,
gold watch fobs.
Gold watch fobs will thump their chest and say, what a glorious charge it was. There it was. We need the high ground. I got to deprive the enemy of the high ground. There is the high ground. That is, isn't it?
It is.
That is the high ground.
That was good.
Hey, look, you can see it. I've never seen anything so clearly in my life as that attack will fail.
I saw you in the Gettysburg film, didn't I?
Do what?
Mm-hmm.
Put back at her for the video. Turn around. She was explaining that an artillery lanyard cap, back at her, not at me.
Oh.
Happens. She was explaining how it functions, and it functions just like our infantry cap. It's got fulminate of mercury, and when you yank back the lanyard, the fulminate sends a spark down inside the gun, which shoots out. Now, she was pointing out that the way they clean out the gun, there was a fellow that had a thing called the pricker. Now, the pricker was a long cylindrical shaft that would stick down in there, and they'd use it to initially break up the black powder from the previous shot. Then they'd use a deal to clean it up, but the pricker was the main device used to clean out the shell. Surgeon, every name is up there. Company musicians are in there. Blackjack. We only fire at a distance. So that guy stayed there, these guys stayed here, and the infantry got chewed to shit. You know that's exactly what happened at the Ohio Battery. Got the hell just sat there.
Got it? So we're within Sherman's region now, right?
Yeah. That, I guess, was his goal, was to take that redan. In her bed, I said goodbye to my true love when fighting Johnny Red. Shit. Hi-ho, it's down we go. There's no such word as can. I'd ride straight through hell and back for Ulysses Simpson ran. I left my love a letter in the collar of a tree. I told her she could find me in the Army of the Tennessee. Hi-ho, it's down. Sam Grant, Maker's Mark, Vicksburg Battlefield. This is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets. up by his saddle horn. He wouldn't carry a pistol around.
It's a pistol.
Would he? Pistol?
Mm-hmm.
Guess he would. No spurs on. Army boots, riding boots. Crumpled up at the bottom. Blanket. Now, my thinking upon the subject is this. If the local police were to stop us for drinking and driving, they'd throw you and me into jail. Now, in each jail, they'd have a huge fucking black dude. 6, they called him.
No.
Yeah, Mike's great-grandfather was in a fighting Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. It was originally, they fought under Claiborne a couple times. How many can do it themselves? Adams was at Shiloh. When you do play the Civil War games, there's an Adams cavalry in the Shiloh game. Logan comes in. Form line in support as reserve. The whole division in line.
Great little
Oh yeah.
synopsis of the
There's
entire
one of-
campaign.
They have
Like a-
up there. They have the casualties, which is fascinating. And
Type
what
these
it
in the
shows actually is on the Louisiana side, they lost as many men as they did at Champions Hill. During the siege on this side, the casualties on the Louisiana side were significant. And Confederate
Do
casualties
what now?
in terms of up yonder. Confederate casualties in terms of missing. Run like hell. You'd hide in the woods, and you know the average Union soldier, if we found 2 or 3 Rebs hiding in the woods, and they toss their guns away, we wouldn't haul them back. We just let them go. Said, get the hell out of here. And off they go. And that'd be kind of, I am sure that's how the transaction was done. Right?
Right.
I mean, shit, the average Union soldier doesn't want to pack them off to Camp Douglas. You don't want to, don't want to make life miserable for your opponent. If they're going home, they're going home. There were probably battlefield paroles like that quite a bit. But that's it. Look at this. Champions Hill. 2,453. Big Black River Bridge. Now, how can you lose missing 540 guys defending a bridge crossing? I mean, defense operations, I guess you could lose 150 guys, but 530 guys defending a river crossing? That is not a logical missing number. Massachusetts Tribute. My God, is there Massachusetts boys on here? The 29th, 35th, and 36th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry fought at Vicksburg. Look at that. This is the CS side of the whole deal, right here. Well, what's it built, Bob? Colonel Edward Higgins, CS Artillery, was served by 6 companies of Tennessee Heavy Artillery on the right, 4 companies of the 8th Louisiana Heavy Artillery Battalion in the center, 8 companies of 1st Louisiana Heavy Artillery on the left. 2 companies of 22nd Louisiana were attached to the left, and the Baden, Mississippi Battery at the center of the command. to serve the duty of opposing the passage of Union gunboats and transports and was in action. The night of April 16th, when 8 gunboats and 3 transports passed without reported casualties, they sunk 1 transport. The night of April 22nd, when 6 transports passed, casualties. One transport sunk on the night of May 3rd when a tug and 2 loaded barges attempted to pass but were sunk without reported casualties.
Okay, I'm done.
What'd you do? That must have been fun for you. Actually, we're not in the front line since, so that must have been okay for you. Really? Where were you when Mussolini gave up? Clark? General Clark. And you heard Mussolini surrender when you were over in North Africa? Have you seen the movie The English Patient? Yeah. Yeah. Did you like it? I did. Yeah. Bob, you've got to picture this because there's a woman that works with him who's 29 years old who loves it. To her, in her world, the English Patient is the greatest thing. This guy was a veteran in the Italian campaign of Bob.
Oh, we'll get next to each other.
This guy was a veteran in the Italian campaign in World War II. And he was at the Anzio Beachhead where we broke out against...
You're kidding me.
No,
Were you really?
This guy was at Anzio. You've got to film it. Because
I am.
The movie Italian Patient where the Brits kind of rolled the north after the U.S. troops had busted it open.
But let him tell a story.
And this guy was in the U.S. intelligence at Anzio with General Clark. Then film it. You got to film it, Bob. This is good. This is good. This is unbelievable.
The funny part is,
Film it.
in the town of Pisa, in Pisa, Mark Clark and Patton were standing in the entrance to the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Oh,
Really?
oh my gosh.
I was
Amazing.
standing there right by him, shaking hands.
This is
With Mark Clark and Patton both?
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me this is my favorite.
Well, get in there with husband now.
Come on in with your husband.
This is
Come
my
on in.
dad.
Your dad is your dad.
Oh,
I gotta tell you my favorite story of all.
All right.
Is it Ray from Texas?
whereabouts in Texas?
Dallas.
Oh, yeah?
Dallas?
A lot of relatives in Freeport.
Where the Cowboy Stadium is now?
Yeah.
Arlington.
Okay. That's Rangers. It's in Irving.
Irving.
That used to be their dairy farm.
They owned the dairy. You owned the dairy farm. I hope your family made some money off of that.
They sure did.
They did. Well, that's good.
I think
Especially with Jerry Jones now.
Anyway, okay, so he was raised on a farm, and he was used to cows and horses and pigs and turkeys. His mother raised turkeys and all that kind of stuff. Well, okay, they were in Vienna, and they didn't know what in the heck Lippinzahner horses were.
Are you serious?
But all they knew was that the Nazis wanted them. The Nazis wanted them.
We didn't want them now.
They had to get them.
Yeah.
And so, Ray O'Connor, you have a farm. You ought to know about how to haul horses.
Is this
Go
all
out.
on your video?
It is. I am amazed. I just
Go
love
out
it.
and the Austrians had hidden their horses in this valley.
Yeah?
Go get some trucks and go out and get the horses.
Oh,
So they didn't know what they were. They didn't have a clue. All they knew was the Nazis wanted. They wanted the mayor. They wanted the mayor.
They were Lippinzahn horses.
And
Beautiful.
So they went out.
You're the man that found the Lippinzahners?
Huh?
Did you find them?
Well, no, he
No,
didn't find them.
we didn't find
They
them.
weren't
We
really
got
lost. They were hidden.
But did you all find them, though, from the Nazis?
Well, the Nazis never did get them.
They didn't.
The Austrians?
They went out and they got the men that
Austrians
were in fold.
The Austrians weren't really Nazis.
No, the Austrians hid them, but they got the food trucks
And-
to go get the horses.
And it was your
Amazing.
assignment to get these white horses, and
We
nobody
went
knew quite
to
what they were, but to get them,
Oh, they
the
knew.
Nazis
The
wanted.
Nazis were trying to
Nazis
get them.
want them, so we got to
So
get
they
them.
went and
We
got
got
them.
to get them.
So that's all.
so the English Patient tie-in.
No, but what about Monte Casino?
I missed that,
mean,
yeah.
Talk about being jocks, a battle. What about Monte Casino?
Oh, I went up, believe it or not. Oh, I knew the day that the casino was going to be bombed. I had that information already on tap. I went to a lawyer that later, there in Dallas, that was later head of the SMU Law School.
Mm-hmm.
I told him that I didn't want him, I wanted to pick him up and take him someplace on the, I forget now what day it was, but anyway, I got him, Henry S. Miller, that owned the Highland Park Shopping Center and all. And I took those two with me, and we went up and watched the bombing on
Went
the
on an
Abbey.
adjacent mountain.
Monte
And
Casino?
Monte Casino.
Oh.
And then, on top of that,
Because see, the Nazis were using it, or whoever it was.
as an
The
observatory.
Nazis were using it as an observatory. They were
Well,
dug
and
in. We
also,
couldn't get
and
them
they
out of
were
there.
using it. They were using
Couldn't
it
get them out.
as
You had
an
to
arms.
blow the
They
hell
were
out of the
using
place.
it as an arms
Right.
depot
Yeah,
too.
you couldn't get the hell. You
They
couldn't
had
get them
all
out
the
there. Blowing it
ammunition.
out.
And then I
hidden
later,
in there.
then I later went back and went to the casino and all of there where it hadn't been bombed. I went back over there in 1967 when Carol and I went over there. Yeah.
Were you part of Operation Torch in North Africa?
No. The only
I have a
thing
friend
that
whose father was in Operation.
Whose?
A friend of mine that I
His
went to
father,
high school with.
Yeah,
he
those
in
were where he
Operation.
cut off Rommel from the
Yeah.
west, and
Yeah.
Montgomery's coming in from the east.
I don't know exactly what it
I
was.
went
His name
over
was
on
Lindsay
the
Dawes.
USS West Point, and we went over in 5 days, zigged
Yeah.
all over, and landed at Casablanca.
Yeah. Oh,
And then-
you were in
and-
Casablanca?
Oh yeah, and then the funny part is then, when we left there, why, we got on a boxcar that the letters on it showed 40 or 8. 8 horses
Yeah.
or 40 people.
Oh, really?
Standing up in a damn boxcar.
Yeah.
Man.
4 horses or 40 people?
Yeah.
No, 8 horses.
8 horses or
horses.
40 people?
Yeah. Oh, it was something. We went in there to Oran.
Iran? You went in from the west where the ships were shooting from, because we lost some ships at that, wasn't that when the one we lost a
No.
few ships at?
No.
Was it Casablanca? Because they shot back at
Back.
one of those.
Yeah.
One of those, the French shot back.
Almost.
The
But
French
it
did?
was.
Yeah, the Vichy French shot back
Oh,
at us
that's
in one of those
Yeah.
battles. We sailed in, kind of said, please surrender, and they started shooting at us, and we had to shoot back.
Where you boys live in Shreveport?
Louisville, Kentucky.
I'm from,
Louisville.
and I'm
How
from,
nice.
I know
I'm
what
from-
you're going to be doing tonight.
I'm from San Diego.
Same thing we're going to be doing.
Gambling
We're gonna
Hey.
be watching that.
for the ball game. Oh my.
That
Whatever that is.
plantation inn.
No, that's not something international.
We're one of those
I'll
places
tell you.
where it's bed and breakfast.
Ben Brecken? Well, if I find the
Jim?
one,
Have you introduced yourself
well,
yet?
my name's Jim King.
Ray O'Connor's my
Ray-
name, and it's
Right.
my name.
Oh, you're a good Irishman too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, a good Irishman. Your daughter's gonna have to let you stand out here and tell us a few more stories now. I heard her comment that I might be intoxicated. I might be, but see, if you're a good Irishman, you won't complain. Somebody did. But if you're a good Irishman, you're not gonna complain about it because this fellow's
Different
driving.
people.
This fellow's driving. Right.
What?
What are your next word? I mean, in all seriousness, what's your next world? Okay, you were in North Africa. Did you go to Sicily?
Then he
No,
went to Vienna.
I went to, when I was down there in North Africa, I went to a British commando school. And I missed going to Sicily, and I was actually supposed to have been going to Eisenhower's headquarters in Tunisia, but instead of that, I went up when Mark Clark's army
Yeah.
was organized in Ujda.
You were at a British commando school?
I went to British commando
Oh,
school.
give us all
He
been.
was CIC, is the reason.
We were in what was called the CI. Margaret Burt White. She visited us, stayed with us a week in Naples, and she wrote a book, and in one chapter in there, she said, we have tried to figure out what the CIC stands for, but we haven't been able to determine it, and I'm just calling it Christ in Confusion.
Christ in confusion. Well, what's the answer?
Huh?
Well, what
That
is
was
it?
it.
Christ in confusion?
Yeah.
And the Allies had that name for it?
That's what I
We're at San Diego Zoo and Wild Animal Park. And my wife and I are both members of that, so we go there we go there about twice a week. Actually, we walk around there.
This is what I got.
When have you been there? Look at that.
Oh, year ago.
Beautiful. That's great.
You know what? I was the first time. I went with my mother and father.
San Diego Zoo? Bob, what's your sister-in-law where she was in the war?
Okay.
You got to tell Bob for the camera, because this is something important. I want people to know this, Bob.
My mother's brother-in-law was a surgeon, and he was in France during World War II. And when Germany fell, he went with the troops over into Germany. And he was in the, eventually went east. He was in the first medical team that went into Auschwitz. And he was one of the ones that had triaged the prisoners there as to who they were trying to save. And Uncle Jay was one of the strongest men I've ever known in my life. But all of the daughters and daughters-in-law and the grandchildren all were living with my grandparents in St. Louis, and when the men would be on leave, they would come home. Well, Uncle Jay, this strong, absolutely fantastic man, came home to St. Louis, the grandparents, and he would wake us up every single night screaming with nightmares. And it was maybe 20 years later that I ever got the information out about what he went through going into the concentration. And it was just unbelievable. And what we were talking about was, I cannot understand how the younger generation now does not understand why we're in Bosnia.
Those who do not understand history are doomed to
that's
repeat it.
because their parents were
That's
not in World War II and didn't know what happened
But they
there.
are.
And
If you
that
don't understand
is
history, you're
repeated.
doomed to repeat
Has
it.
repeated
And you've
itself.
got to avoid it. Yes, sir.
So I-
To understand Chickasaw Bayou, because there were a bunch of these gunboats going up Chickasaw Bayou that at the sailors. If you have accurate musket fire from where we are, 100 yards, I guess it's 100 yards, Bob?
Where we are now? Not
Yeah.
even that, 50.
Okay. You got guys hiding in trees 50 yards away, shooting accurate rifle musket fire. Well, the sailors that are trying to man the guns are pumping in grape shot to blast your ass, but you're behind a tree. And you can accurately pick off up there, and the Union troops here never pressed the attack. So it was kind of they used this place to bombard up there, and that was kind of the end of it. And the guys who were down there didn't really want to press the issue a whole lot, because they were going to be on the short end of the stick. But Bob, if you want to take a picture of trenches, I happen to think that it's kind of like we're in the middle of, you want to take a picture of Orientals and you go to Peking, China, you're going to be able to picture a lot of Orientals. You know, you want to picture trenches, there they are. And despite what infirmities I may have, by God, I'm going up here. Turn around. Look at that old house right across there. bunch of stuff that looks like that. Up with the stars. We won't tear our nation apart because of him. By God, they didn't want to answer to Abe Lincoln. Said their slaves couldn't be sold west of. The K-roll wouldn't fit on there, would it?
No. No way. It couldn't be deep enough. It's only going to be a
No, they said it's going to be deep enough to float any boat on the river. That's what
really?
the plaque says. Flowers are beautiful.
Oh, there must be a lot of these. Probably just not accepted. There's probably a lot of stuff in the ground. Yeah. All by Grand.
What? The Negro work gangs, supported by fatigue details. But you can imagine how hard the white boys were really sweating out there.
What's that marker there?
I don't know. I don't think many.
Down there.
I don't think many white boys. Did you see crawdad down there?
But there is.
What?
Yeah, I'm sure there is though.
Probably is down. Probably a bunch of crawdads down here. Was in charge of Negro work gangs, assisted by white men who were fatigued. Brother Cornrunt here made sure those Negro work gangs and the fatigued white men worked.
In that canal.
In that canal. Digging, digging, digging. Yep. Near Young's Point, right around here was Sherman's headquarters from January to April of '63. And this was where the main Union camp was, where the guys were detailed to go dig the canals. This canal actually went through. God, you could see it'd be, I mean, to move guys for 500 miles through this ship. All you'd have to do is have some Confederates pull up some cannons among the trees on the bank, and
What's the name of this one?
this is Lake Providence
Oh.
Canal. You know, why don't we go up to the armadillo. And that's his dick. They're his balls. He's dead. So what you do, the poor guy deserves a decent funeral here. So we're going to drag him off, leave him right side up here in the bushes. Give him some dignity in his death.
We drive 20 miles back.
Now we get on the historical road, though, so we get on the road.
Were you just peeing?
Yeah.
I didn't catch you.
Missed.
So you knew. You took advantage of it.
I did. I have to.
There was that same bunch. We're digging the canal now. They ended up down here. And these mansions here were unsurpassed in beauty and richness by any of the same extent in the world. And when the officers in charge of the 13th, I think that was McPherson, and the 17th, that's the Clarence Corps, they kept a tight rein on their troops. And the stately mansions were unharmed as they marched southward. However, when the troops of General W.T. Sherman's 15th Corps pressed forward to join General U.S. Grant in his invasion of Mississippi, his soldiers got out of hand. And on May 6, 1863, a number of rowdies, yep, now these here rowdies, they were in the same battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Puller commanding, marched through under General J.M. Tuttle's division, and they burned most of the mansions which faced the lake, including this here one. And that's the history. The rowdies, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Puller, burned it down. That is where the Ruth, wife of Dr. Nutt. She went to Grant and offered to house and feed his troops if he would spare her the house. He agreed to leave the house, but they still burned the cotton gins, the sawmill, and the cabins. So long. Yeah. That's the place was the headquarters of the Union Army.
What's the name?
Rosalie.
We're now driving into The Longwood. Well, Jim and his buddy. Nice canopy there, Jim.
Ah, yeah, Bob. Look at that. We've already screwed it. Look at that.
Yep.
This is Mrs. Lum's house.
Oak Hill, right?
I got that stale, musky odor around here of mild mildew. They're nice, though.
Nice bathroom.
Port Gibson. That is pointing to Elvis. I think we're going to have trouble.
Good looking dog.
because See what this here sign says? See
What?
how that dog, don't film the dog now. This here sign says there's water over the road. And if you turn and look that way, you'll see the sign's right. There is water on the road.
What's the speed limit on that
The
road?
road's 15 miles an hour, speed limit.
Jim being a wally.
Right here now.
An armored canoe.
Armored canoe used by Confederate Indians to attempt to break the Union stranglehold on the Mississippi. And Father of Waters, they use this here iron canoe. Military significance to it. See about it? Colored heavy artillery. Now how did a black guy fought for the Union end up buried in this little cemetery? Think about it. Now if you want to put a flag somewhere that would have a particular meaning, old Sergeant Johnson might appreciate a U.S. flag more than anyone else.
We've got one left.
You do?
Yep.
Let's give it to Sergeant Johnson. Yeah, and he was a sergeant too. He has to be kind of a Morgan Freeman-esque kind of character. And how a black dude ended up here. There's got to be a whole story behind that.
You know we can get it through the records. If you want to write his name, make a mental note. Be worth doing.
We have it on film, so it's pretty easy to do. Yeah, we could get his papers and find out everything about him. Local establishment named Nukies, because there's nuclear power plants not far away. Now, some local folk call it Nukies, but the correct pronunciation here is Nukies. Now, what do they have, the Nukies? They got girls, and more girls right in here. And then naked as a jaybird, the dearborn, right in there. And 3 to 5, they
Jim, what kind of employees have no cover?
No cover on the girls or energy. There's a lot of interaction going on around here. And they'll even store you all in boats. Wow, this is an all-purpose place here. Energy. We don't need to. Do you really want to get the tripod? Of course, everywhere you move down here, you have your flankers out, right? You have to, because there's going to be enemy snipers and all kinds of stuff. across from here. Okay.
You hear them?
Is that mice or is that wasps?
Probably wasps.
It sounds like mice, doesn't it? If you move here, you need to bring with you about 10 cats to clean out the...
Oh, that's nice. Here's a historical belch. You haven't narrated this for us yet. What?
The road narrates itself. Take a look at the road. This is the road that Grant's boys marched up from Bruinsburg. They went to the Shaifer House one night.
Oh my gosh, hold on.
Then fought along Willow Creek the next morning.
Here.
Which we photographed both of that.
All right.
This is all one march.
Careful!
Shoot it on me for narration. Well, the road we are on is a road from Bruinsburg up to the Shaifer House. This is the very road Grant's boys took as they marched up in the early afternoon of the first day after they landed. The Confederates at the Shaifer House did not think the Yankees would be anywhere near there at the time the Yankee troops arrived, which was in the twilight and early evening hours, which created a night fight up at the Shaifer House. So what we have here is the road that the Yankee boys took that afternoon, that morning and afternoon. The Confederates had nothing out here to guard this road. And this road, everyone says, looks exactly the same today as it did at the time. And one value of filming it today is that it's probably not going to look that way 30 or 40 years from now, except that the poverty of this area may be such that nobody's going to develop this area.
Or Bill Gates will buy it.
Or Bill Gates will buy it, as we've talked about. But we might as well go back and refilm it, but this route is beautiful. Now the music, which is Fillmore. Yes, Fillmore. The reason I said Fillmore is Bob and I had a toast to the commanding officer, Army of the Mississippi, I think it was called at the time, U.S. Grant Commanding. And we had a toast to him with some Tennessee whiskey back at the Shaifer House, and for that reason,
Though he preferred Kentucky bourbon.
He preferred Kentucky bourbon, but when you get far enough south, you can't get the Kentucky bourbon, and therefore you get what you can get. Bob and I finished off our bottle of George Dickel, and we are now riding down Sam Grant's Road. Bob would have gotten whacked by that if he was out of here.
Bob got whacked by one earlier.
He's gotten whacked by at least one hanging vine, but that's half of the value of this road. Now we will put you back on the road, and we will return you to the, well, in a minute we'll return you. I'm rewinding so we can start again from the top.
Let's hear a different, because not filming yet. Yep.
Bob, this is fucking orgasmic.
I know it.
Music, this road. We know that 20 of the Iowa boys moved up this road. My great-great, I think it was August Stray. I think he was with the Iowa boys, because I know he was GAR from Preston, Iowa. They called it Iowa. Can you imagine Iowa boys marching up this road? Shit. There's a bomb. Look at this shit. I must say, oh, there's Corn Row. Like, I take a shot at Corn Row, but in any event, you got to capture Corn Row, whatever it is. But there's probably no spot in the United States that more captures the natural beauty of this country and the history than this. I've never been anywhere in my life that captured history and natural beauty as much as this point. Let's go on. You got to film Corn Row.
Look, what row is this, Jim?
That's Sweet Pea. Now, let's do a tribute to the blacks. The African Americans in one generation. Generation before that, they're blacks. Generation before that, they're Negroes. National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. That's the generation before that. They're colored people. And before that, they're niggers. Now, that's them. And nonetheless, we have done a tribute to with the white folk at Grand Gulf.
Let's go. Slow down.
I'm running out of battery.
I'm running out. The Windsor, we're going to...
What would happen? So they have their heavy guns at Grand Gulf, the most logical landing point. And so the Union outruns them, goes 5 miles south. And if this hadn't worked, they've gone 5 miles south beyond that. There's going to be a crossing point. And I guess somebody told Grant about the road from here, from Bruinsburg into Port Gibson. Natchez and come up that way. Because given Grant, he gave the order to keep going, right? Had it been McClellan, it would be land, secure the beachhead, and fortify it.
Oh, what?
No, the road's past. Look at, we went down. We're here. Therefore, it is passable. Okay. All right. All right, in you go. We're on the road. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. That would be a kind of a good epitaph for this place. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. This is all that's left of the high society of the time. Look at that tree right there.
Go ahead.
My earlier comment about ashes to ashes and dust to dust, one goes back to Genesis to get ashes to ashes, but there was a poem by Shelley called Ozymandias, and it's about a traveler in Egypt who finds an old pyramid about 1800. It was written about 1810 probably. discusses what that traveler felt upon seeing an old pyramid, and I think the line ashes to ashes, dust to dust is from Oximedes, but this scene needs to be narrated by someone reading that entire poem, because that poem suits this scene incredibly. That view is incredible. You can see the house there. I mean, just looking at it, you can see where the house was. You can see where they danced. You can see the huge lavish parties and the cotton culture of this area. And there's nothing there anymore. Interesting poem. That was probably the kitchen. For me to narrate, Southern plantation homes always had the kitchen apart from the house because kitchens were likely to catch fire and grease fires. And they'd burn down, any kitchen would burn down on the average 1 in 5 years. So that home, that building there is almost certainly the wartime kitchen used for this plantation. So you might as well film it. And it makes sense actually, look at the cistern
right there
between the kitchen and the house. But you would never have the kitchen with the house because of the potential for grease fires. Percy something Shelley. What was Shelley's middle name? It was, but in any event, his wife wrote Frankenstein. Percy Bierce Shelley, B-Y something. Percy Bierce Shelley wrote Oximedes, and that poem needs to be narrated to these ruins. And we need someone to do that. And that experience would be superb. Percy Bysshe. B-Y-S-S-H-E or something, Shelley.
Confederates huddled behind what's left within sight of the Money Yazoo, waiting. A flotilla including payload steamed into view and began searching for and destroying torpedoes. Naval Commander Thomas O. Selfridge, going to small arms fire, thought his flotilla was under attack and ordered his ironclad into position. 4 years later, Supervisor Slim Parks and Shiloh Battlefield worked their way through the main water in search of the precious artifacts impacted into the brig. 100 planes helped the pilot house to the surface, along with one tank, racing with them, added incentive to salvage payload. In 1963, the Mississippi Agricultural and Industrial Board, Operation Payload, sought to raise the profit.
Union troops were unable to scale the Redan's walls to enter the fort and were trapped in the ditch until nightfall, when they could attempt escape. The survivors then threaded their way between the debris and broken bodies as they searched for a path back to their own lines. Private James Kephart, returning through the darkness, discovered a severely wounded officer. Kephart, risking exposure to the rebel snipers, managed to carry the officer across the battlefield to safety. Stragglers arrived in Union
sections of this part of town. Now, right there, Days Inn. You stay there for $42 a night. One night, $42 right there. Now, as you move by Captain D Seafood, it's Shoney's. You can eat breakfast there, all you can eat, $2.99. Now, right across the way, there's a hill where there was some artillery during the war. Right up there. And then, looking this way, this here's a Union Army trench. That's right here. The Union Army stayed right here at that Days Inn.
And what happened right here last night?
I went to sleep in the trench thinking about history, meditating, conjuring. This is the Jackson Road. This is the road's vicinity, was Stevenson. This is the right flank of the Confederate advance. Confederates pushed out, got repulsed, and then the Union advanced behind them. You're filming the line of the Union advance. And the Union were defending here and then counterattacking down this road.
We're looking sort of southwest.
We are on the road running between Jackson and Vicksburg. The Coker House, which was the Confederates initially held this hill at the start of the battle. The hole you see in the house is probably an artillery ball from a Union gun. Then in the afternoon, the Confederates were retreated, and the Union Chicago Board of Trade Artillery mounted its guns up here and sent a few rounds after the fleeing Confederates.
Go ahead.
We are standing at the 2nd Confederate position outside of Raymond. They began the day with a regiment on that hill ahead of us. Were forced back from the hill, and then they guarded the intersection where we are located right now. To our left is a hill. There's a hill with the U.S. flag on it. So there may be a marker or something up there. And no doubt some level of fighting took place on that hill. Want to walk up there? It does look like there's something up there.
Okay.
They formed a long battle line going probably a half mile, starting their left. Union left is where we are. Union right goes about a half mile. Goes due east from here, and forming one line, they push north. Sees that intersection up ahead, and keep going into town.
Right, they actually moved to our right now, which is looking northeast.
Right. Vaughn, Mississippi. And those two local dogs. Now, right here in Vaughn, Mississippi is where Casey Jones got in his final train ride to the promised land.
Let's walk up here.
Occurred right here on these tracks, right here. And so in Vaughn, they got a museum right there. Then it's Casey Jones. You understood right. This museum to Casey Jones is the Casey Jones Museum. Right here in Vaughn, Mississippi. Now, come down to the track and you can film Casey's last ride, because it happened right here in Vaughn, Mississippi.
Tell us about it.
Right, well, Casey was going south, southbound, the Cannonball Special, going south from Chicago to New Orleans. Now, Casey was famous man, because he could make up lost time. When he took his orders, he was 95 minutes behind time, but he figured he'd make it up. Well, sure enough, poor Casey didn't make it up. He kept going 100 miles an hour. And there were two trains on a siding that one of them, unfortunately, extended its caboose onto this here railroad track. So as Casey went through, why that caboose was right there. He hit it, going 100 miles an hour. It slowed down to 40. Fireman Sim, what was his last name?
Sims.
Sim was his first name. He jumped. Casey didn't jump, stayed right hand on the throttle till the very end. It's that crash site. I wonder if that's the siding, though. I mean, the crash site would have been right there. You might as well film this. This is what old Casey Jones saw. This was where he started putting on the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the railroad farts. This would be like, the railroad fart could come out here and tell you exactly the spot where Casey started putting on the brake, where he first saw the other train. And just like we would, where such and such a regiment did something, some railroad guy, this would be the same. Graveyard, right at Bryce Crossroads. Now this here is the Bryce family, after whom this corner was named. And those there are the honored Confederate dead. Now the Union dead, they dumped them in a big trench. But by God, they have their cemetery for them Confederates. Yep. That's the way they do it here. You know, a small engagement like this, I guess they'd be able to identify all the dead. If your side won it, it wouldn't be too hard to go back and...
Look at all the Kentucky Cav. 12th Kentucky Cav.
Yeah. RLB.
Where was Van Dorn thinking? What are all these generals thinking?
Why the Confederates? But you know, 80% of these battlefields is Confederates attack. Remember Port Gibson, Confederates attack. Bryce Crossroads, all these are. Raymond was a Confederate attack. I mean, that's what's so bizarre. Is it?
Where are we, Jim?
We are on the top of Battery Robinette and Corinth, looking out at the scene of the Confederate attacks on this fort. One thing I like to mark. See, Bob, you didn't want to film. Guys marching on the road. Here they come.
Who's that?
The Confederates attacking us. Those guys shot at them. See,
Oh, I mean, this is...
Yeah, they're attacking us. We're the Union. We're the blue.
Okay, there's no taking turns, in other words.
There is. It's their move, but your guys are programmed. You can program your guys to shoot during the enemy's turn.
Absolutely cool. Was hit in the knee with a mini ball and bled to death, hit an artery.
That camp is going to be one muddy mess.
Valverde, New Mexico.
There's nothing to say right here.
Foraging armies swept across American farms and burned American towns. Americans slaughtered one another wholesale here in America, in their own cornfields and peach orchards, along familiar roads and by waters with old American names. In 2 days at Shiloh, on the banks of the Tennessee, more American men fell than in all previous American wars combined.
Those are going to stop
know. Is it going to just make it miserable the next couple of days?
Yeah, it sounds like Saturday's going to be bad, really.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Where are y'all from?
Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and that area. 2nd Brigade.
Well, we're always glad to have a little artillery support.
So we heard from some guys, I don't know if it's true or not, but supposed to break up this afternoon even. Didn't we? Or, no. Rain tomorrow morning. Breaking up in the afternoon. By noon or thereafter, break up and be to the north. In the afternoon, it sounds like it would be good. This is about the end of your patience right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just fall into the 2nd Wisconsin, with our artillery piece. And what do we call, what is it, the 4th? 4th, Battery B. Battery B, 4th.